I'm a huge fan,
Thanks, man.
and I love what you're doing. I love the impersonations, dude. I think you're one of the best characters on Saturday Night Live. You and Sarah are just two of my favorite. And so we've been trying to get you on, and then Emily, my booker, said that you are a diehard Bob Dylan fan.
I'm not as big a Bob Dylan fan as I am a big enough Bob Dylan fan to know that I am not as big a Bob Dylan fan as some people are.
Sure.
Right? But in the year 2024, I think I qualify as a big Bob Dylan fan for a number of reasons, and we can get into that.
Okay, well, before we get into that, promote away. What do you have going on? I know you're on break right now. So.
I'm on SNL next season. It's the 50th season. Joe Biden and Donald Trump, our two favorite people, are going to be the subject of, I'm sure, like the first 5 or 6 episodes. So,
oh yeah.
I'm just chilling in Nashville with my family until it is time to go back to New York. So,
which is so funny that you're from Nashville because you do not have an accent whatsoever. Did you have one when you were growing up, and you had to like fight through it?
Yeah, I talk like this until I was 15. I was like, honey, go get you a plate. Fix you a plate. Call me when you get home.
No, like I'm from Nashville. I'm from the city of Nashville. I'm from like 5 minutes from downtown Nashville.
Okay.
And there's not really an accent in the city. If you drive 20 minutes out, you get to the more January 6th zone of the world.
Yeah.
Accents, but like Nashville is a metropolitan melting pot place. So, it doesn't get crazy accenty. I personally don't think, unless you grew up outside of it. As far as I know, no one really grows up in Nashville. No one is born here. Everyone moves here when they're 25.
Yeah.
And so that's like how it normally goes. But I'm from here, so this is the accent. But
no, it's great, dude. Please don't. Please, I love it. I just know that sometimes we have to fight through the accent of the region that we grew up to be, so we can actually work as comedians, actors, etc.
For sure. I mean, yeah, you know what I'm talking about. Or you're Nate Bargatze, where you are firmly.
How you doing, man? Yeah, all right, okay.
Nate and I grew up. We were born almost in the exact same area of Nashville, like born in almost the exact same place, and grew up in many of the same neighborhoods almost. And it's just crazy how much more Tennessee he sounds than I do. But I think, he was always going to be a Tennessee guy, and I was always going to be a guy who ended up in LA or New York or something like that.
Sure. Yeah.
He happened, by his talent and his brain, he happened to end up in New York and LA. It's so funny how like we're so different and yet we have the exact same origin story.
I love that. And it's the same thing where Sean Patton, you know Sean, right? Sean Patton, who is from New Orleans or from like Louisiana.
Yeah.
Grew up 20 minutes from where Theo Vaughn is from. And you have no idea because it's like Theo is so like, well, man, out on the bayou and the baba-dooba-dooba. And Sean's just a regular, fucking, you could be from the mid-Atlantic. You have no idea.
Sean could be from Pittsburgh or something. And there's just, the South is the joke about the South. And it's also not. It's like, it resists a lot of those categorizations. That's why I think it's like the best. It's like the best place. I don't know. It's I tour the world now, and like I've been to all these different places, but there's nothing like a blue county in a red state. There's just something about it.
It really is special. It really is. It's very dirty. Usually, it's very dirty and war torn.
But that that collision results in a lot of cool stuff. There's a lot of there's something to rebel against, which I think people who are born in more homogenous places, more homogenous zones, I think that they really have to leave and find identities for themselves. And it's so fertile. That's why all the music that our country is known for has sprung from down here. It's like there's so much. The conditions are perfect. It's like why we grow grapes in California. It's just the conditions are perfect for that. And down here, the conditions are perfect for Americana roots music.
Yeah, dude. You know? And then you go to England and it's lush with feeling and emotion because it's always gray and dark. And Seattle, same thing with that and hip hop here. I want to ask you this before we even get into music, because you mentioned about these areas. Have you gotten shit from people on the road about your Trump impersonation?
No one gives me shit. I only get shit from like The Atlantic and like from like I only get shit from press. I don't get shit from audience people. I mean, I do my Trump stuff in like real red audiences, real red rooms. Yeah. And the takeaway is like, oh, you do such a respectful Trump. I love that it's not mean spirited the way Alec Baldwin is so mean spirited, and yours just shows him for the lovely, incredible person that he is. And then I go and do the Bell House in Brooklyn, and everybody's like, I love that you do such a like stupid and demeaning and harsh impression of Trump. You really stick it to him. So people like, I guess that's the thing of doing a Trump impression that feels so much like the guy to people, is that I almost get the benefit that he gets electorally, where it is like, you only think of him what you are bringing to the table. Like, people walk away with their own attitudes affirmed. Yeah. So, whatever, man.
Do you wish that you guys were recording right now after this past debate? Did you see shit you would have done, or you were like, oh man, like I wish I could have the, because you're doing Biden as well too, right?
I was doing Biden. We've got Mikey Day doing Biden now, and I think that is that's just in case we're both in the same thing or something like that. Yeah. But I really like doing Biden. I do Biden like in my act on the road. I'm still finding the pieces of Biden, because he like kind of we've got a different Biden now even than the 2020 Biden. So like,
we definitely do.
I'm still kind of picking little pieces up and new games and putting them in, and so I love getting another swing at Biden anytime I get one. But like with Trump, it's like Trump is also on the decline. Like Trump is slowing down. He's less fiery. He's less fluent.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that I've noticed, is like how on drugs he looks like in 2016 and 2020. He's talking so fast and he's
he's jacked, dude.
And then like now his like sometimes his dentures get loose and he has to like talk around like the whistling in his dentures, and like sometimes he's blanking a lot more on like what he wanted to say next, and like they both lose train of thought and have to go down a different path of something that feels comfortable
constantly. Yeah.
It's more obvious, I think, with Biden, because I think we're kind of getting a more, he's been doing the president. You saw how Obama deteriorated over.
I know, man. It was, dude, he was such a young, virile man. And by the time he was out, it was like just gray and wrinkly and
a statue of himself. He looked like
he really did. Yeah.
A marble statue of the guy. Like he already looked like his own monument.
Yeah.
Barack Obama did by like the second term. So like Biden is doing that in his 80s. That's nuts. And Trump has just been kind of running from the law for years. So he's exhausted because he's just like the enemies are around every corner, so he has to just keep running. Yeah, I don't know. I saw bits and pieces, but I'm one of those guys who, like, when I'm off duty, I'm
You're
kind of
off. Yeah, I get it.
kind of like I'm fishing. I'm reading books.
Good for you, man. Good for you. I think that's fucking the only way that you can be. Because it's also funny. I always like to find the comparison between what you were saying about being a president and then also being in Saturday Night Live, because I'm friends with so many people that have been in it, and it's like you're for 7 days a week. Well, really, what, 6 days a week? You guys are just going, right?
Yeah, it's a 6-day-a-week job, and Sunday you're just like walking around like a zombie. And I've got a little family, so
Are you married?
I'm married and I have a 2-year-old. Yeah.
Oh, dude, I didn't know. I thought you were just a fucking slacker comic. Like,
Oh, I wish, man. That'd
eating,
be so sick.
Eating granola bars for lunch and dinner. I didn't know you had a family. You have a family? Holy shit, dude. What's that like?
Walking around New York blowing a lit blunt in people's faces and stuff.
Yeah.
Not a bachelor. I am a family man. That's the Tennessee for you.
Oh, I love, dude. That, you know what that makes me like? I already liked you, but now I like you even more because I'm like, oh, that's so sweet. Because, dude, I'm not saying we get like degenerates like this podcast. We've had so many people. Which, by the way, because I feel like right now we'll get back into the SNL stuff. There's so much to talk about. I have so much, but we have to start because there's a guy that's about 45 years old to about 50 or 60 years old that's right now listening to this podcast, mad that we've only mentioned Robert Allen Zimmerman, aka Bob Dylan, Bobby D. Now, here's what's funny, and I'm going to pull up Adam, my producer or whatever. I don't know what the fuck you do. Audio engineer, Adam, the guy that's helping out. I love him. He's the best. He helps me write this, and I had him compile the list of the people that have done Bob Dylan records so far on this podcast. So we started with Time Out of Mind, which is at 410. You love that. That was Rita Wilson, Tom Hanks' wife. Yes, it was. We don't get fucking shit guests, bro. We get, but here's the thing. Just wait.
Yeah, let me hear.
Okay. Love and Theft. We had John Doe, the lead singer of the band X, that came in at 385. Then we did John Wesley Harding at 303 with Nimesh Patel. Great comic, great dude. 292, The Basement Tapes with Nish Kumar. He's a British comic. And then you coming in at 204 with Modern Times. And then I still have 6 more Dylan records to do before the podcast is over.
Okay. That's interesting that I think it's interesting. I love this record.
Okay.
I think it's interesting that Modern Times is coming in 290, coming in ahead of
tell me, because
records, Love and Theft especially, and Time Out of. So when was Time Out of Mind? What number?
That was 410. That was with these. Wait, Adam, were these the original? Because that seems so late in the podcast. Like, I feel like, Adam, was that right? Because I feel like that's the right number. It came in at 410. Oh, yeah. I'm not talking about 2020. Yeah. Okay. Cause that seemed like, I was like, damn, I already did 90 episodes before I had Rita Wilson on. That felt like it was so early on the podcast. I mean, also, it's like, how many have I done? What are we at right now, Adam? We're at 204. So 296 records. We're doing our 300th, which is episode 200. We're doing with Bill Burr live. We're doing Highway to Hell to celebrate. Dude, I wanted to quit so many times, and we just keep going. And I think I'm going to finish it. I think I'm gonna.
This is cool. When did you start this? What year?
October 31st was the first episode released, 2018.
Okay, you started this pre-COVID, and there's something about, I'm going to get into all 500 Rolling Stone records that feels distinctly COVID lockdown.
Sure, it does, doesn't it? Yeah.
So it's good that you got a head start on your COVID brain, and I hope that you can smell and taste again. I hope that's coming back soon.
Nothing. I got nothing still. Long COVID, dude. I got it. My lungs are weak. My brain's foggy. I got nothing.
You feel little kids sitting on your collarbone at all
Oh
times.
my God. Just the wheeze. But here's the thing is that because I didn't know Nimesh when he came on. I knew of him, but he was such a good guy, and we had such a great time. Nish, I didn't really. He was a guy that he was, all the way he's recording in England, there was like a disconnect. John Doe, I always get nervous when it's rock stars, because sometimes they just have no sense of humor, And not saying he did or didn't. It's just I get very like, eh. And then Rita Wilson. I mean, how could you be calm talking to Tom Hanks's wife? It's but with you, I was excited, and I feel like I can start the episode, because I didn't say this to any of these people, with I don't get Bob Dylan. I do not get him, and maybe it's because I'm starting with the old Dylan first and working my way down to Highway 61 Revisited and Blonde on Blonde and Blood on the Tracks. Every song on this record was 4 minutes too long, and a story about a fisherman or whatever the fuck he's talking about.
Yeah.
I listened to it 4 times.
Oh,
I don't, dude. Yeah. I don't just put it on and go, all right, this sucks. Fuck this. I try, and I don't like him.
Okay.
Okay. So,
and you want to talk to an American comedian about this, and I'm glad that you came here, because I'm pretty Americana. I mean, like last summer, 15 minutes of my act was me doing every guy in the Highwaymen. And
really?
Yeah, I did like a 15-minute long. People hated it because it's like probably only people who listen to this podcast. I'm talking to you, Gen Xer. I'm talking to you, Boomer.
Baby Boomer. Yeah, dude. We got him, dude.
In your Rolling Stone, your tattered Rolling Stone bomber jacket that you bought for 4 cents in your home that you bought for 4 cents with a 3rd grade education.
Yeah, dude. You know my audience.
Yeah. Listen, this record is the record that I got into Bob Dylan on. And I was in high school I think this is 2006, this record. And this was the new Bob Dylan record that came out. There was a commercial on TV of cowboy style Bob Dylan. I don't know if you looked up his look or the presentation of the band at this time, but like there's an Apple commercial. It's an iPod commercial maybe, or iTunes. Probably iPod, 2006, right? So it's like in black and white, and kind of like the shitty lighting I have right now. There's very high contrast. Yeah. And like he's playing Rollin' and Tumblin', which I think they kind of elected Rollin' and Tumblin'. Of all of these songs, I don't know why they picked Rollin' and Tumblin' as the single, because it's like there's a few blues numbers that are similar. I mean, it's like Thunder on the Mountain and Levee's Gonna Break. Like those are all really similar. I feel like he's doing Muddy Waters, basically his version of Muddy Waters. But like, I think it's so weird that Rolling Tumblin' was the one. Yeah. But what me and my like buddies in like the guys that would eventually be like English majors or whatever, me and my friends on the writing on the high school literary magazine.
What was it called? Wait, what was it called? Like we had what was it? God, Seneca Valley, the Screaming Eagle, I think was our paper. What was yours? Or the Talon, the Screaming Eagle Talon.
Oh, the Talon. Our literary magazine was called Wild Honey, I think.
So like Americana. Dude.
Cool name, right? And I went to like a crappy little Baptist private school for high school. I was in the public school system. My parents pulled me out because they didn't like that the high school I was zoned for had such a strong gay straight alliance. I think that's why. So I went to this Baptist high school out in the sticks, and I really didn't get along with like everybody at school or the teachers, and every other teacher was like a baseball coach who absolutely hated the subject they were teaching. I had a baseball coach, English teacher, sophomore year of high school, and we're doing vocab, and he gets to the word disheveled. He's saying disheveled, and we all have to repeat disheveled. And I was like, that's not a word. And I looked at it and I said, don't you mean disheveled? Like I just said it in the middle of class. And he just looked at me like I was an asshole. Next year, that guy was gone because he had been carrying on a relationship with a teenager at another school.
There it is.
Uh,
That's Americana.
talk about your life being a little disabled.
Yeah.
You may be making things up.
Yeah. That's hilarious.
So Rolling and Tumbling came out, and I remember seeing that commercial. And then my buddy got the album because he was the pretentious dork. He's the one who wanted to get into Bob Dylan, and he listened to Thunder on the Mountain, and he was like, he sings about Alicia Keys in this song, and I was like, no, he doesn't. And he's like, no, listen to this, and we listened to that Alicia Keys line, and I was like, why is a 100-year-old man singing about looking for Alicia Keys?
Yeah.
And I was just very interested in that, and that kind of like started the let's listen to Rainy Day Women, and let's listen to all this. So like I got into Blonde on Blonde from Modern Times because Modern Times came out, saw it in the record store, listened to it. What the fuck is this? And then listened to the classic Dylan stuff. So I've always been on both tracks. I've always been like classic Dylan is great and old guy Dylan is great.
Which one do you like more?
I've seen old guy Dylan twice live. And
When, because it's funny as you were talking about this, I just realized when I saw Bob Dylan, the one time I've seen him was in 2006. It was when he went on tour with, openers were the Raconteurs. Jack White's I guess that would be his Americana band in a sense. And they put on, and that's who I went to see. And my buddy Charles was friends with the tour manager for the Raconteurs, this guy Yanni, who I mean, I'm giving him a shout out because he's a good friend now. When I went on tour with Jelly Roll this past year, he was one of the guys that was like, I guess not his like handler or something, but a tour like what would you call it, like one of the higher ups in his tour. So he got us tickets. We go to see Dylan. The Raconteurs killed it. Dylan did not look at the audience once. He sat in the back facing the fucking wall. And I was just like, all right, I don't get it. And then I smoked a blunt with my buddy and Yanni, and I got really sick and got pale, and then they had to take me home. That was the story.
Good for you.
Thanks,
that is a good first Bob Dylan. I maybe had a better one because my first Bob was 2021, and it was literally like as soon as the Musicians Can Tour Now embargo was lifted, he was out there because he's been on the Neverending Tour, and this record has a live sound, and Modern Times does, and he recorded it with, it was like the first record he recorded with Neverending Tour musicians, like that he didn't really go in to record an album. It's like he went and rehearsed these songs with his live band, and then they went in and laid them down. And it's kind of similar to how he did Love and Theft. But I think that the sound of this record is more cohesive than Love and Theft, even though Love and Theft is probably a better record. But I absolutely love the way this record sounds, and
sounds great. I'll give it that. Listen, and I do completely agree with you. It does feel very live and almost immediate. It's raw. But I can't tell the difference between this and Love and Theft or the first one we did, which was Time Out of Mind.
Time Out of Mind has a very distinct production style. It's got a lot of effects and a lot of studio shit happening because it's Daniel Lanois, and
love him. Love Lanois. Big Lanois fan, dude.
I love
his name pops up quite a bit in the history of music, and so we have mentioned him many, many times before. And so you're saying that in please correct me if I'm wrong, because I really only know about Dylan what the info that Adam gets in front of me.
Right.
Is this the first time he's working with Lanois, or is this like that time and this he's working with? Who's he working with as a producer on this one?
He made Oh Mercy.
Jack Frost.
Yeah, Jack Frost. That's Bob Dylan. So
that's him, yeah.
So he worked with Lanois for Oh Mercy, which is a great 89 record, and then he worked with Lanois again on Time Out of Mind. And I think that he did Oh Mercy, he had a couple like folk cover albums, and I think he wanted to hit again. And he remembered "Oh Mercy" was like his record that the critics were like, "Oh, he's back." Because after through the 80s, everybody's like, "Oh, he fucking sucks. He's the worst. He sounds like shit. These songs suck. The recordings suck. He clearly doesn't want to be doing this. What the hell is wrong with him?" And then he recorded "Oh Mercy," and everybody's like, "Holy shit! Most of the time, what a great record. Holy shit! Ring them bells." Like, there's so many good like what feel like classic Dylan moments on "Oh Mercy," and he was like, "All right, I'm going to go back to the swampy sound. I'm going to get Daniel Lanois. We're going to collaborate." He kind of didn't like how much studio sauce and how much production sauce Lanois used on "Oh Mercy," but he's like, "I'll roll the dice again with Time Out of Mind." Time Out of Mind is without question Bob Dylan's like great I'm old, great late period record. I think Time Out of Mind is just unimpeachable.
Yeah.
And like Make You Feel My Love. How many like dudes like that can write a song that Adele, Garth Brooks, and Billy Joel can all cover distinctly, and they all are like charting hits? It's
Wow.
it's
Yeah, I
nuts.
didn't think about that. Yeah, I didn't. You know, it's so funny. So you said that I didn't even put those together. That was a Dylan song.
Yeah, when I is blowing in your face. Yeah, he's one of those guys where it's like hearing him sing his songs, you go, "Oh, this is interesting," and you hear somebody else, literally anybody else, record one of his songs. Tina Turner or somebody like anybody else who records one of his songs, you're like, "Whoa, this is one of the best things I've ever heard in my life." So he has his thing that he sounds like, that he's going for, his like, I'm just an old rambler blues guy who's writing tunes about a woman. And then you hear them recontextualized by other bands, the Byrds or anybody who does it, and it just busts it wide open. You're like, "Oh, this is in the American Songbook. Why didn't I see that before when he laid it down?" I can just keep saying about that, but he didn't like the Daniel Lanois sauce. He thought it detracted from his essence, and kind of has a point. I'm like, "Buddy, you need a producer who makes it real interesting." But he said, "I'm going to do it myself. I want these songs to stand on their own legs and sound really clean." And so he just has a very straightforward production style on Love and Theft and Modern Times, and pretty much every subsequent record has been recorded the same way. And I really like it. I just like that it represents the touring band in the best possible light, because the show doesn't represent the touring band in the best possible light.
Yeah.
And you were like, "Oh, this isn't like, it's hard to enjoy this show."
It really wasn't. It just was such a I'm going to say a letdown. I don't ever want to say that, because live music is still beautiful in whatever way that you get it. You just sometimes, it's like seeing Korn and having Jonathan Davis not like rum. Like, that's what you want. You come here for the fucking
the Korn guy is calling it in.
And I do. What's funny?
Assistant holding it up to the woman looking microphone. The sexy.
We went to go see Korn post COVID, and he had long COVID, and so he was like, me and Big Jay Okerson were like telling Dan Soder and his girl, we were like, "Oh, dude, he fucking kills it. He's gonna bring it. It's gonna be so awesome." And he didn't mail it in by any means, but he was a shell of his former self. And with Dylan,
COVID is kept in the dreadlocks. That's COVID, took up residence back there.
That's where it will never escape. You have to cut them off and start over, but nobody wants to do that.
Adam Duritz, you better watch out.
Yeah, dude. I guess we're never real anyway, though. There's always were fake, I'm pretty sure. Yeah. The other thing too, this is what I found very, very interesting about that experience going to the show, was that me and Charles, my buddy, we were driving, and we took a cab. Yeah. But there was like a bunch of people walking. Oh, we had called a cab from the train station to take us to George Mason University, where the concert was at the arena, whatever, for the school. And there were people like begging us, like, "Can I get a ride with you guys? Can I get a ride?" And because we saw they had a car, and Charles was like, yeah, sure, why not? And this guy jumped in, and he goes, the guy's like, I go to Harvard. I actually have dropped out of college, and I'm just following Dylan around. Like he's going from show to show. And that was the first time I was like, and it was so funny is that I know that Dylan was this respected, arguably one of the greatest living, writers, musicians, rock stars, whatever the fuck you want to call it. So I knew that, but it was the first time I saw it live, like in person, that there was somebody willing to do what the Grateful Dead did. And I thought that was only like a Grateful Dead thing, to follow somebody around like that are Fish. And we talked to the guy who seemed like a nice enough dude, and and he was just so excited, and then he jumped out, and then we never saw him again. And I watched the show, and I was like, all right, it's fine. Raconteurs were way better, way more interesting.
Sure. I mean, yeah, it's for people who like him already, and because you kind of have to come to it with a little grace. You gotta you kind of got to give it a chance. And I think that you kind of need to be armed with knowledge going in, because I think if you let yourself get blindsided by what he tours, like how he tours and like what the show's going to be, it's not the Rolling Stones. He is not there to play the hits. He is not there to run around and make you feel like you are in 1969 again. He's not going to sing Sympathy for the Devil as close to how he can approximate it to when they first did it. Bob is jamming with his buddies in the moment that he's in that day. If Bob is hungry that day, that's the show you're getting. Bob was hungry. Like, he is not the Rolling Stones. He's like Picasso or something. Can you imagine meeting Picasso? That guy would not be personable, fun. His art is not enjoyable. You sit there with it for a long time, and kind of, it takes a while. And I think that Bob is much more of a Picasso type figure than a Mick Jagger type figure, or even a Keith Richards type figure.
Yeah, that's a good point, and I completely get that. But I at the same time, it's like, dude, people, like, you pay money, like, they want to see you. Go out to the fucking front, dude. Be hungry up front.
He's kind of more of a front man now. I saw him in 21. He had vocal rest, for a year or two, and he came out at the Beacon, and he sounded pretty good. It's still old Dylan, Tom Waits kind of like croaky, but he sounded pretty good. And he plays piano live, and some venues turn the piano down and let the band be the music. Saw him in Newark in 2023 with another SNL writer, Mike DiCenzo, and piano was way up, and it should not have been. He's really plonking on that thing like a 3-year-old sometimes. So. But there's just nothing like being in a room full of people who love Bob Dylan and hearing him sing the lyrics of Black Rider, the size of your cock will get you nowhere. I mean, just like the shout that went up from the room. Bob Dylan's talking about the size of the cock.
But it's like, can you sing along with it though? Like, he's literally just.
Can you sing along? Can you sing along with like Dave Brubeck Quartet? Can you sing along?
No, but you're talking. No, you cannot. Of course, okay, but there's no fucking words in Dave Brubeck Quartet. All right, I know jazz. Okay,
well, there's
saying that. My favorite part. That'd be so fucking funny, dude, if that's what we did at a jazz show, which we should. God damn, dude, we're discovering a lot today. No, it's, dude, I like, yes, you know what's funny? I love how you mentioned the Rolling Stones.
Yeah,
and we're gonna get just. I'm just saying this to that 50-year-old guy that's listening to this podcast right now. We're gonna get into the songs. Don't worry. I've just got to handle this. So we're almost there. We're at the halfway point. We're gonna get into it. Okay. I lost my train of thought. No, you were saying the Rolling Stones. They want to go see. They want to, like, when you go to see them, you're getting those songs and you're getting them the way. And I appreciate the whole idea of like him doing, well, some days he wants to play it like that, some days he wants to play it like this. you know, it's just one of those things that it's like you've got, you know, I listen to his music and I don't think any of it is like, you know, and they're great songs. The older stuff, there's some stuff, you know, like a Rolling Stone, or the ones that I would call the hits, is like those are stuff you can sing along. I just don't see how a room, it's just a room of an arena of people just kind of like you said, it was art, Picasso. Are they just like, like like
Yeah. Yeah, it's like I think it's like it's more like hearing an interpretation of his music than it is like a replication. It's
Sure.
like it's more like being at church where like there is a preacher that is distilling the text and bringing it into a new form to make it relevant for that morning, rather than just all 500 people looking down at their Bible and reading the same words at the same time. Like, I think that he is not as sacred with his library as like people think that they're supposed to be with him. So he distorts his own songs. He's going to take a song like that is he's going to take a song that's a ballad on the record and figure out a way to make it a like peppy blues number, just because he wants to try his song again. He's like never done with them. It's like George Lucas. George Lucas is watching fucking The Phantom Menace and he's going, I think we should CGI Yoda. So when the DVD comes out, it's a different fucking puppet. It's not a puppet anymore. It's a cartoon. I think that he's just a guy who's never done with his stuff. He's always wrestling with his stuff.
I get it. And I look, like, you know, because of this podcast, I've gotten into the Grateful Dead, and I've seen the Dead and Company like 2 or 3 times now. And I appreciate that. I appreciate that the song is different, and you do, here's the basis of it. Like, here's the ingredients. You need the eggs, you need the flour, you need that. But it's like, you know what? I'm going to add a little bit more vanilla this time, or we're going to add a little bit of that. I get that. But as a fan, don't you like, because remember, so Lauryn Hill, Lauryn Hill, Miseducation, Lauryn Hill, one of the best records of my lifetime.
Oh, yeah.
Supposedly, I've never seen her live, but I've just heard the stories that people go to see her, and every song she's changed it in some way that it's not the song that we like anymore. And it's kind of like, man, like, it's hard to sing along with it because I don't know this version of it. And it's like, don't you just kind of want to, like, I don't know, maybe I'm just I feel like a fucking
I think you're coming into it wanting it to be like a time travel machine instead of coming into it being like, I am in the king's court. Like, I have come into his house. I'm in his house. And I've been invited there. And, there's a different composure that you have, and there's different expectations. And I mean, I was just talking to, who was I talking to? I was talking to, oh gosh, I don't remember who I was talking to, but I was talking to a Rolling Stones fan. I was at a Rolling Stones show, and Chris Johnson, the guy who owns the Jets. I was talking to Chris Johnson. I was like, "Where was I at the Rolling Stones show?" Yeah. At the Jets stadium, and he was saying that he just couldn't believe how bad Bob Dylan was, and he couldn't believe it. And to me, it was like there's. The thought that I had was there's more than one way to enjoy a rock concert, especially with somebody who's got a lot to share. And I think that with Lauryn Hill, who's got, how many records does she have?
She has one. Yeah, no, but that's it. She has the one. She has one record, and that's all we've gotten. And that's why it's like, if she's not playing it, it's like, we want to relive that. I love how you said that earlier. It's like, it's like he's never done, but like, it's whatever mood. But I think she's doing it more, not even to like, she's being basically like, fuck you. This album ruined my life in a sense, and I know that's all you guys want, so I'm gonna do my own version where I do look at what you're saying, and that Dylan is like, I really wanna, let's add a fucking harmonica thing here, let's fucking jam with that, let's add a fucking organ here. Like I get that, and I actually do dig that. So you said it perfectly, James. Like, it's art. Dylan isn't it's not he's not, you know, we put him on the same level as the Beatles, you know, and the Rolling Stones, and yet he's not them, because the Rolling Stones and the Beatles will give you they'll give you that cheese pizza. They'll give you just a full on cheese pizza. I think Bob Dylan is a radish. You know, not everybody loves a radish, but the people that love radishes, and they're good. Radishes are very good.
Yeah. He's like a parsnip or something. Something even more like esoteric, where it's like, in the hands of the right chef, this is one of the best things you've ever had in your life, but you're not gonna grab that at Kroger and fry it at home. You're not gonna know what you're doing with it.
Radish might be wrong. Radish is there's only so much you can do with a radish. Parsnip, a shallot, you know what I mean? Like, you know, something like that. All right, let's talk about the record. Let's see. So our record today is Bob Dylan's Modern Times, released in 2006, August 29th, 2006, recorded February 2006 in the Clinton Recording Studio in fabulous New York City. Produced, like we said, by Jack Frost, coming in at a whopping, a fucking dude. You feel every second of that 63-minute and 4-second song album. Yeah, it's a long, but aren't they all like Time Out of Mind was long? Dude, this is what I'm telling you. It was this.
Time Out of Mind ends on Highlands, which is like a 15-minute long. It's Alice's Restaurant type kind of meandering sort of thing. I think it's just like, you know, this is somebody who just looks at records as an opportunity to do. He makes stuff the way he wants to, and I don't think until you have really dissected Bob Dylan as much as I have, because this has been my art thing that I have done for fun by myself for the last like 3 years. Ever since my wife got pregnant, we had to move from Highland Park, Los Angeles to New York in the winter when she was 7 months pregnant. I started on SNL, was doing Biden the very first moment of my very first episode of my first season. My life just so changed. I lost all 4 grandparents. I have a child now. I have a wife. We've moved like, I don't know, 5 times. I don't know what the fuck it is. And so listening to Bob Dylan records, starting with John Wesley Harding. And
great record, by the way. Great record. That.
Along the Watchtower is 3 chords. It's perfect. It's just ba, 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 ba. They must be sneaking out of here. So I've listened to all those records, and that has been amid all the constant life change. I basically sat down and said, I'm going to appreciate Bob Dylan on a level that is beyond what I had done before, which is I liked Modern Times, and I liked Blonde on Blonde, and I liked, you know, a couple things here and there. And it's like, I'm gonna get into this. And so, and also Rough and Rowdy Ways had just come out. That's his last record. It's an incredible record. So I basically just sat down and said, I'm going to understand this stuff. And so this has been the guy that I've taken a lot of my kind of like, he's just been the context for how I've thought about my life and how I thought about what I do. I went from being a like comedian in LA, doing commercial auditions every once in a while, doing podcast appearances, trying to get colleges. Can I open for somebody at a college, and then I can make it a little bit further? I'm gonna make some cameos as Trump. Try to patch over some of these bills. You know, sending in self tapes, just doing that thing. And then the way that I make my comedy, the way that I've been doing it since I was 18. I'm 35 now. Like the way I make comedy was just completely drastically altered by success. Like I had some career success, I had a break, and now I have to completely think about my comedy, my personal life entirely differently from any way before. And Bob Dylan's been the constant. I don't know what to tell you. And Modern Times is just, I'm so happy that I kind of know what's going on now. Like, cause I'm hearing you talk about Bob Dylan, you're like, I don't know what the fuck's going on. And I'm like, it's really rewarding when you know what's going on. Like,
I bet. Oh, I bet if you get it, dude, how could you not like because I wanted to ask this question later, but
sure.
and I want to ask you about SNL real quick. But like, but I want to, God, this is your, I love when I have a guest that can talk about the record and understands it. And this, so just letting you know, I'm having a fucking bang up time.
Good.
Especially the contrast between the way I feel and the way you feel. And I can't do that with Rita Wilson. You know what I mean?
Sure.
So if I want to like Bob Dylan, I want to be a fan of his. I want to be you. I want to have 40 albums worth of shit to fucking dig on.
Yeah.
What should I listen to? Because I'm going backwards. You've heard what I've listened to. Time Out of Mind, Love and Theft. I dug John Wesley Harding a lot.
Yes.
A lot. And that's an old record.
Yes.
And then I know Time Out of Mind, Love and Theft, and this one are all like the newer stuff. That's like that run of shit that he did post 9/11, whatever that they called it, like the reawakening of Dylan. What should I listen to? Because I've never listened to Highway 61 Revisited all the way through. I've never listened to Blood on the Tracks, and I've never listened to Blood on Blonde.
See, I love all those, and they're from pretty different eras. I mean, Highway 61 and Blonde on Blonde and Bringing It All Back Home, that's kind of like, that's the period that all the Rolling Stone writers that's the period that all the David Frick types are like, I'm Bob Dylan. It's 1965. I've got a great band. I want to lay down a record. I'm getting tired of the folk scene. I want to move on to something else. What record do I record? I record Bringing It All Back Home. Like, the guys that revere this 60s period of rock music when it was, simpler times.
Yeah.
Everybody's like, oh, the world is so divided now. I'm like, people remember that there were whites only drinking fountains. Like those people are alive. They remember that shit. Like, yeah, it's so divided now. I just think, if you listen to the 60s stuff, it's a product of its time in a great way. He's doing drugs. He's young. He's on top of the world. Times they are a changing, made everybody go, whoa, he's deep and he's paying attention to the world. And then after that, he was like, I'm going to get real abstract. The madman draws curtains up and down the wall. I'd ask him what the matter was, but I know that he don't talk. And the neon madmen climb, all that like Bob Dylan poetry that you hear on like Blonde on Blonde. He just went to space. And of course it's incredible, but he just never stopped shooting up to space. He went in his own direction, away from the folk scene. They yelled at him and called him Judas, and he's just been doing that the whole time. He's been like, fuck you, I'm going to figure out my own rock tunes to sing. I'm going to find a new shade of blue. If you want something to just enjoy, Nashville Skyline is really enjoyable. He sang in a completely different voice. What his mom said is his natural singing voice is what he sings on Nashville Skyline. But those are just songs about cuddling up with your honey pie and maybe having some sex in the afternoon. Like that's what Nashville Skyline is. Lay Lady Lay and Tonight I'll Be Staying Here With You. It's all about it's like, well, I was going to go out traveling, but I think I'm going to drop my suitcase on the ground and get in bed with you. That's a really approachable zone of Bob Dylan to get into because it's not Once Upon a Time You Dress So Fine. It's not trying to be arch and magnificent. It's just like, hey, I love a woman and she's a sexy mama.
Yeah.
Blood on the Tracks is the other choice because Blood on the Tracks is, okay, I just lost the sexy mama because I fucked up because I'm an asshole. And it's like a bunch of 9-minute songs about how much of an asshole he is. And it's incredible. That's the Blood on the Tracks is the one that I come back to once a week. I go back and listen to alternate cuts, outtakes. One of the best Blood on the Track songs isn't even on the record. Up to Me is just a great fucking song, and it's not even on the record. People say about Bob Dylan that he finishes a record and he picks out the 3 best songs and he throws them in the trash because that's just how he makes art, man. And you know what? Bob Dylan's easy to get into because he'll put the very best song on the record number one. Like almost every record of his, the first song is
the hit.
Is either the best song on the record or one of the best songs on the record.
Yeah, the poppier, the one that has maybe the most groove to it. Yeah.
Yeah, or has like just a lot to say and a lot to enjoy in it. And
my buddy Angelo Bowers, who's the reason we do this podcast, he passed away in 2012. I don't know if you ever met him in LA, brilliant comic, but he loved Bob Dylan, and he loved Blood on the Tracks, and he would talk about that record being because I would say I'd always, and this is make fun of me for what I'm about to say, but I'd always be like, Beck. Sea Change is one of the best breakup records ever because it's a phenomenal album. It is on this list.
Unreal, let the golden age begin. Yeah, I love that.
Paper Tiger. It's just I could go on and on. And he was like that. He was like, that's his Blood on the Tracks. And what's funny is I just never. I don't know. It's like I've never just put on Bob Dylan because of I don't know what if it's. I'm just not into it, or that concert left such an impression, or I'm closed off, or I think at a certain point, it's like, and I'm not a contrarian. It's not like I'm like, I want to hate Bob Dylan because everybody else loves him. It's not that, but there is a thing that, maybe I'm just overwhelmed by the catalog. There's so much. And I'm like, fuck, it's like, dude, have you watched Lost yet? Lost is the best show. And I'm like, that's like 80 hours. I don't have 80 hours.
Same thing with The Sopranos too. And, but you can with Bob, every song is a record. Every song is a complete idea. And like,
it's as long as a fucking record. Every song is fucking 9 minutes long. God,
well, it's because there's enough there that it's a complete thought. It has substance. And Shelter from the Storm. You can listen to just Shelter from the Storm from Blood on the Tracks. You don't even need to listen to the whole record. Just like one of my favorite first verses in rock music. 'Twas in another lifetime, one of toil and blood, where happiness was a virtue and the road was full of mud. I wandered in from the wilderness, a creature void of form. Come in, she said, I'll give you shelter from the storm. It's just like, what? That's like so much song in the first verse. That's already like, what? That's a lot of words, and they all fit in together really wonderfully. And I wandered in from the wilderness, a creature void of form. Those are even simple words. They're monosyllabic. Why didn't I think of that? Why can't I talk like that? Why can't I express myself in song that way? I'm some other idiot would say, I'm nothing without you. And he said, I wandered in from the wilderness, a creature void of form. Like, I don't know. That just is so much more evocative of like how he must have felt getting divorced or whatever. So, he's more straightforward, I think, than it might appear at first blush. And I think that this record seems like it's about something much more than what I'm about to say. But I honestly think that this record is just about a weird guy who is possibly a criminal, probably a murderer, who is drifting around thinking about a woman. And like, that's just the theme of every single song is, I'm walking around, I'm looking at other people. If you talk to me, I'll punch you in the face. I miss this woman that I am very horny for every night that I sleep in a barn. Like, that's pretty much it. Every song is like, I'm walking around, I'm thinking about you. I'm feeling kind of violent and a little mentally unwell. I'm running from a crime I've committed. He admits to guilt of a crime in almost every single song on this record. I don't know if you noticed that.
No, I guess it's listening to it. It's always been an issue with me. It's just like paying attention to actual lyrics. Like I need to read the lyrics as I listen to the album. It's the only way I retain it, and I get lost. Cause usually I'm listening to it when I'm driving to like a gig, upstate or whatever. And, because I listened to it on the way to Baltimore and on the way back from Baltimore, and then I listened to it on the way to Massachusetts and on the way back, because it's literally half the trip is just one listen of this, and then I immediately quenched it with like Green Day Dookie. You know what I mean? I immediately was like, all right, let me I feel dirty. I feel like, not like I feel bad. It's intense, dude. And like, I'm just reading some of this shit is like, Elton John said that this album inspired him, for his next record, that somebody who with such a great output could come across an album at this age and make it. It's timeless. It's brilliant. I still think it's not. I don't know, man. I think it's like we've already, and I want to move on from me being this way because I know it's like it's so redundant. But I think the issue really is that I know that he's this great guy, and everything you're saying is I completely get it, and I'm 100% behind that. I just keep thinking that I'm going to be wowed. Like, I think I'm going to be, it's like one day it's going to be this magical pop song or whatever that comes in, and I'm like, oh, that's it. The hook with the this and the that. It's all the little accoutrements that are what make Dylan Dylan. I do love the fact, and I had no idea that on Thunder in the Mountain he mentions Alicia Keys.
I was thinking about Alicia Keys.
So she hold on.
Crying.
Say what?
He's thinking about Alicia Keys and he starts crying.
What is? He's like, I'm reading about it. So it's like Keys, a former fellow resident of Dylan's at Hell's Kitchen in Manhattan. She heard the news of his referencing her from John Mayer, but didn't believe it until he showed up with the CD. Keys' reaction when she heard that Dylan had written a song about her. I was shocked when I heard about that. I think somebody was talking about me to him, and I was in his subconscious mind. After he wrote the song, I started feeling like maybe we did meet, but I know we haven't. I'm trying to think of a comeback line for one of my songs. The problem is nothing good rhymes with Dylan, and Zimmerman is worse. Dylan said of Keys, I remember seeing her at the Grammys. I think I was on the show with her. I didn't meet her or anything, but I said to myself, there's nothing about that girl that I don't like. What's the best compliment you've gotten by a peer or somebody you highly regard?
Oh, Jesus Christ. Oh God, there's so many. No, I mean, Martin Short in the hallways of SNL one time was like, said some stuff that nothing lands harder than Martin Short.
Sure.
Like what I'm trying to do, I'm trying to do Martin Short. Like, I'm trying to be Steve Martin and Martin Short at the same time. That's like, those are the two, daddies that I'm like trying to. I don't even say stand-up comedian. I do stand up and everything, but I usually just say comedian because I don't want to be constrained by the club system or the UCB shit or anything. I just don't want to be labeled anything, so I just kind of say comedian. And so Martin Short's one of those people where, like, if he says something nice to you, it probably means a lot. He was just like, you're a great actor and you make fun choices, and your Trump is such an interesting, like, for somebody like Martin Short to be like, you figured out a comedy puzzle that like has eluded so many other people. That just like meant a lot to me. And he even had something critical to say, which is how you know that the compliment is real, is because he had some advice that it came with. He was like, all you need is confidence. Like, he was like, once you figure out your confidence thing, you're going to be, on the track you want to be on. And so that's like, I've been riding off of that for a couple years now.
Sure.
Is it a huge endorsement?
Is that an issue? Because what he said about the confidence thing is something that I have fought with. If I self-sabotage so many times over my career where I just didn't believe in myself. When it's like, all I had to do was just go, no, you deserve to be here and you're funny. It's like, do you have that issue at SNL, or like, do you ever have like the imposter syndrome being there? You do?
100%. I mean, getting on the show is like the closing of a chapter in the people who get there. That's like, for me, getting on SNL was the goal. And
how did it happen, by the way? How did it? Because that's another question I was curious. Because I remember seeing the where I really saw you get a lot of shine was that one Trump video, and I'd watch you doing those like handheld things, and they were brilliant.
Yeah.
And so tell me, just take me through a quick, as fast or as long as you want. It's all good. It's how much time you have. Like, what's the journey from UCB doing stand up, Highland Park, to suddenly you're on SNL?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I got to LA when I was like 22, and I don't know if you ever knew the guy Jesse Case. Did you ever know the guy Jesse Case?
Yes, I did. Did he get sick?
Yeah, he got cancer and moved back to Nashville. I think he's good now.
Okay,
But,
good. Yeah. Jeez.
Yeah, he got colon cancer, which is the one that like gets young people. Because I think that there's just fucking Roundup in all our wheat or whatever. I think.
Oh yeah, no, dude, we're not, dude. It's surprising that we more of us don't have like cancer from the GMOs that we're eating.
Yeah, our testicles are full of microplastics.
Yeah. But like, I heard that. Yeah, isn't that like a new study that there's like microplastic in semen?
Yeah, we saw it on the ultrasound. You know, like, it's not already playing with the Fisher Price hammer and nail. So Jesse would take me around to the Improv a lot, and I was like getting my toe in at the Improv, and then I think like the booker changed, and I was like, well, fuck that, I'm not starting over. So then I became one of those alt scene guys, and I was just up in Echo Park all the time. And then I was like, let's go back to the Improv, and I got in with like Jamie Flam, and we were kind of like, I was starting to get in there, and then he was like, oh, I'm gonna leave and form Dynasty Typewriter. I was like, I got to start over with the next improv booker. So it's just one of those things where it's like in LA, I just bounced around to whoever would put me up, and I never focused on one club or anything like that. And Comedy Store always seemed like such a big deal, like kind of, do the door guy thing. And I was like, I don't know if it was too far from my house, I think. And then like the Laugh Factory, who knows what's going on in the Laugh Factory? So like, I just kind of did whatever comedy I wanted. And we started a show in Highland Park at a bar called L'Aqua Vita. And I remember, we did that show for like 5 or 6 years. And I started doing Trump in like 2019, and it would be like the same Trump that everybody else was doing, a little like, this guy's an asshole, that kind. And I would be like saying the things that happened that day. And it's just like, I got better at the voice, but people were just silent because it was not funny. And so like, I started trying different things, and I made Trump, talking about wizards and castles. And I made Trump talking about Radiohead. I just like made it his vibe, but talking about shit, whatever I wanted to talk about. And that's when people started responding. And then like in COVID, I was just walking around my neighborhood making videos of myself as Joe Biden or Michael Rappaport or Bob Dylan. I was like, always resisted doing impressions in my stand-up because I wanted people to respect me as like a stand-up. And impressions kind of came naturally. So I was like, definitely don't do what makes you, definitely don't do what's natural and unique about you on stage. Audiences won't respond to it. You got to impress some of the worst people of all time.
Like, dude, don't do the thing that actually you're good at.
You do.
Yeah, but do the stuff that everybody else does. You just mediocrely.
Yeah.
And dude, that's oh my God, Jesus.
So like my videos in 2020 just started getting passed around. At one point, I think I was my videos were being shared a lot in a group chat that was like Justin Long and Bill Burr, and like I started getting shared around in like a chat that was. I did a video on my podcast where I was Trump. It was like with Whit Thomas and my buddy Zach Pugh, and I did a video as Trump, and they were talking about the New York comedy scene in the 2000s, and then I was in character as Trump for the interview, and they were like, "Hey, Trump, you were a comedian in New York, weren't you?" And then I was like, "Oh yeah, I was there. I was." It was never about. It was never about the show. It was always about the diner after. I wanted to hang with Patrice, and Patrice was there, and he just ate whatever the hell he wanted. And I said, "You got to slow down." So like, I did this video where I was like 2000s New York comedy Trump.
Yeah, that's so great. That's so great, dude.
I think John Mulaney saw that. And so like John Mulaney started passing that around to other SNL people, and Will Forte, I think, and Kristen Wiig showed a video of me as Trump talking about like Weird Al to Lorne. And they asked me to send in a tape. I sent in a tape. I said, "Honey, don't worry about it. I'm not going to get it. They string all my friends along. It's not going to happen. We're good." We had just moved into like this beautiful apartment in East Side LA. And my wife was, she was
pregnant.
And we were going to the doctor all the time and nesting, the nursery and all that. And then they loved the tape, and they invited me to an audition in LA. I went to an audition in LA. And I was like, honey, don't worry about it. It's not going to happen. They string all my friends along. We're good. And the audition in LA went really good, and I put it out of my mind. And then like they called me to New York, and I went to New York and screen tested. I said, honey, they do this all the time. And then they meet with Lauren, and I went in to meet with Lauren, and so the process of like going from farting around in my apartment with my pregnant wife and being like, I'm going to be the stay-at-home dad. I'm going to drive the kids to school. I'm going to send in a Taco Bell audition every once in a while. It's going to be okay. That just went from that to, as soon as I was in Lorne Michaels' office, he basically was already talking to me like I worked for him. And
like, what was he saying? Like, what was the moment? What was the moment that you knew you got it?
Well, he's always been cryptic, and sometimes he does end up not hiring somebody even after he's like, it feels like he hired you. So like, it just comes down to the actual, unless the lawyers have looked through the paperwork and handed it to you, like you don't know if it's happened yet. But
yeah,
I feel like the moment I knew it was happening, he was talking about wigs. He was like, well, you're a very seasoned performer. You'll be running around. There's a lot of wigs, and you're going to be wearing wigs, and you're going to be running around, and you'll figure it out how to do it. It's best to just do it, and you'll figure it out from there. And like, I was like, okay. And then he was like, are you married? I was like, yeah, I'm married. He's like, do you have kids? I said, my wife is 7 months pregnant. And he said, when's the baby due? And I said, Christmas Eve. And he like looked at the calendar of the shows for the season. And then he was like, well, you'll have the baby during the break, and then you'll be back, and we'll help you get a doctor and everything, but you should be fine. And it was kind of when he was like looking at the calendar and telling me when my wife would deliver her baby. He was wrong. He was born on the 4th of January. So I didn't get as much time with him before I had to go back to work, but that was the moment. I was kind of washing my hands in the bathroom right after that meeting. And that's kind of when I was like, I think I just got hired to the show. And it has kind of, time has really slowed down since then. Like when I'm with my baby, it feels like he just shot up overnight, but time does not exist at SNL. I think that's part of why it's lasted for 50 years. I don't know if you've ever like been in a place like that where there's no windows, maybe a submarine, casino. But there's no windows. You don't know when the sun went down. Everybody's circadian rhythms are all over the place. So ever since then, it's just like this, it's like walking through a portal into a strange dimension. And the thing that I'm just glad that I have a family. I'm glad that I have some stuff grounding me, because I think that lifestyle, that rapid change from nobody to somebody, and that heightening of stakes and responsibility, I think that that's really hard on the single people. I think that is extremely, extremely hard on them, because it really does become their entire world. And like it goes from the fun version of that to being something where it's like you gotta like pull out every once in a while and reassess things to have the creative juices flowing. And that can be a really great job when you are fully in a great creative place. And so you really need to be able to tend to that. And I think that my family affords me a lot of creative kind of liberty. That's like a very deep way of talking about it. And maybe a darker version of talking about achieving your dream. But like achieving your dream is like, is a tall order. Like that's why people say, be careful what you wish for. It's like, once you get on SNL, then the work begins. You must work. I mean, you gotta figure out how to walk into the most famous person in the world's dressing room and describe to them how the armadillo is going to fart. Like I'm talking to Adam Driver, and I'm like, so when you hold the armadillo, you you want it like near your face. Like that's just no one can prepare you for what the job is.
Yeah, I bet, dude. I bet. God
I
damn,
don't
it was like
really prepare you for having a kid either. But what's the next song? Spirit on the
how
Water.
would Bob Dylan ask Adam Driver like to hold the armadillo?
I don't know if you ever touched one of these before. They say that if you do, you might get some kind of leprosy or some kind of debilitating skin disease. I don't really know, but I'll get you somebody. Where's Jim? Jim, maybe somebody can get him some special gloves. We're gonna get you some special armadillo gloves.
Um, if you never listen to his Sirius XM show, Theme Time Radio, you have to.
I will.
Him as a DJ is so funny, and Tom Waits comes in a lot to talk to him. It sounds like a bit, and it's not. He's just
Tom Waits and Bob Dylan together in the same room.
Yeah.
Somebody else who really loves talking about bugs is my good friend Tom Waits. He sent in a tape. Let's listen to it.
Hey, Bob. I was reading about the violin beetle. The music that it composes with its legs is said to ward off predators and attract mates.
It's like is that kind of shit.
We've done a bunch. We've done a bunch of Tom Waits records on here, and
I'm a huge Tom Waits fan.
Yeah, I see that. I get. I get Tom very, very easily. Especially, I've had moments where I was listening, to his music walking around New York. Especially, I'm gonna forget the goddamn album. Adam, pull up the Tom Waits records we've done. It wasn't. No, it was. We did
Small Change.
No, it was one of his earlier ones. More not so much. What do you got? No. It's that album. That's the record I listened to right around the time that I moved to New York, and it really just the
That's a West Coast album, but interesting. You might have been missing it. You might have been missing the West Coast.
It felt very New York. It felt very there's some call me baby. That's oh my god! It just was that's what I love about music, especially living in New York. I had it. I guess you have it in LA, driving around the hills, like we talked about Beck. Me and my buddy Angelo in my Jeep driving to Valencia to do a show, and it's magic hour, so the sun's orange, and we're listening to the Golden Age. And it's just the top's off the Jeep, and it's it's that magical moment. Oh, yeah. And I think New York is very, very easy to have that music in your headphones, post rain or whatever the fuck. Oh, yeah. Love Time Waits. Dude, perfect explanation of the armadillo and the bugs. I'm going to give you props on that one. All right.
It seems like if you can appreciate Tom Waits, you can appreciate a song like Spirit on the Water, because you know how Tom Waits has that nasty old Disney pirate voice, but then he'll sing this the most beautiful little ballad you've ever heard in your life. And if y'all did Mule Variations, that has so many of those moments like that. I'm going to take it with me when I go. So Spirit on the Water is kind of that way. I just love the way that the band sounds on this record. That's kind of like a crooner ballad. And again, he's singing about a woman he loves. I'm wild about you, gal. You ought to be a fool about me. He's just walking around thinking about this woman. And then he admits to, I've been in a brawl. I can't go back to paradise. I killed a man back there. I think it's so funny how on every single one of these songs, he admits to being a shitty dude who has maybe murdered people, who will kick anybody's ass. And he goes back to singing about how beautiful the woman is that he misses.
He does.
He asks her if she's ever believed in ghosts. I just think that's
he does have this wicked sense of humor that is it seems like for a guy that seems like he's not having fun, it feels like maybe he is secretly
he's not playing the music.
Yeah, that's where he's having fun, and I dig that. Loved. I not loved. I don't want to sit here and say I loved any of this. I love it after talking to you. I'm no, I love the song.
Talk to someone about these albums. That I think did the trick for me. I never really knew what was going on with Bob Dylan, and then you meet somebody who likes it a little bit more than you, and they kind of clue you in on some of the layers that you didn't pick up on, because there's all these frequencies that you just don't hear when you are approaching it by yourself. I think that's why he's the legend he is today, is because everyone got records like Times They Are a Changin' or Bringing It All Back Home. And they're records. You sit with them. They have the lyric sheet with them. Everybody has the same record. It all came out at the same time. And so you have a bunch of young people who are just as excited about what the fuck is Maggie's Farm? Like,
Yeah.
you know, like, is this a real place? Is he talking about a farm? Is he talking about, I'm not going to work for Columbia Records anymore? Like, I think interacting with somebody who likes it's super important. And because it would just be a shame. All right, what's the next song? Rolling
and Tumbling. Yeah.
It would be a shame to not hear the words, "Some young lazy slut has charmed away my brains." That is one of the first lines of this song, and you maybe didn't even catch that.
No, I did not.
I roll and I tumble. I crawl off and sleep in the shade. I roll and I tumble. I crawl and sleep in the shade. Something like that. And then the next line is, "Some young lazy slut has charmed away my brains."
This is a what is it? Who's the guy that wrote this? Is Blues Standard, first recorded by American singer guitarist Hambone Willie Newburn, and we talk about this on the podcast all the time. I love the blank Willie Newburn. So what would be yours if it's like Blind Willie Jenkins? Like I would be I would be like rosacea face Josh Adam Myers. Like I think that's my thing that's wrong with me. And then what's yours?
I would be, I'm Delta Jim Johnson. I think, you know, it helps that James Austin Johnson is already kind of a black name. So I think that
really is
lends to me having a really bluesy sounding name. But that's like, you know, every once in a while I'll go to a club and somebody saw my name on a sheet on like the order, and then they meet me and they're like, "Totally thought you were going to be black."
I know. I was going to say, dude, it's like you probably would tell me if you gotten booked at a show and they were like, "Oh, we thought you were, you know, this is tripping on Tuesdays, bro. Like we thought you were, we thought you were Delta James Johnson."
Delta James Johnson. It's happened once or twice. This is one of those ones where, you know, people say that he stole. People get mad now and say that he stole lyrics or stole a hook, and he's just in the folk tradition of robbing his record shelves. But some of his source material is so arcane that it's like, who is complaining? People got upset when the album came out that he was cribbing from Ovid. That this is a poet that is so old, last names didn't exist yet, like Ovid. Like there's so many lines from Ovid throughout the record, and people are like, he didn't even write this stuff. He's taking from Ovid. And I'm like, the guy who wrote poems 2,000 years ago, wouldn't you be, if you were an English professor, wouldn't you be fucking psyched that your kids were stealing from Seneca or Aeschylus or, you know, somebody from antiquity? So I don't know. I love all that stuff because then it just makes me, as a Bob Dylan fan, go, "Oh, what was he reading at the time? Oh, he was reading The Book of Love by Ovid. I'm going to read that."
Yeah.
When the Deal Goes Down, I think is kind of like, that's kind of where the record hangs a little bit. You know, it's not my favorite one. Even Working Man's Blues is a little bit of a slog. I can see where you're like, well, why is he asking for his boots and his shoes? Shouldn't he just pick one before he goes outside? But
I love that you really know the lyrics of every one of these songs. You are truly studying this music.
This is Bob begs for that. I think that you can do that with this music, and therefore you ought to. I think other people's, you know, if I busted out the lyric sheet of Mr. Brightside, I'm not sure that we'd unearth some chestnuts really in there. Doesn't change that it's an amazing song and will be playing in every grocery store until I die.
Yeah.
The same way that by the way, you ever go in like one of those diners that are for boomers where everything's red and white and it's just playing Beach Boys and Sam Cooke the whole time? And
it's of course
milkshakes. Do you think that I, as a millennial, am going to have that where I go into a restaurant that's got like a bunch of people wearing like one little feather dangling from a headband and like Shutter Shades, and we're listening to Mr. Brightside and 808s and Heartbreak. Like, do you think I'm gonna have? Like,
yeah, it's called John and Vinny's in fucking Hollywood. It's already there. It's like it's a high end restaurant that's overpriced. It's just spicy fusilli. It's good food, but the music is so fucking loud, and it's all that music, but mostly the hip hop shit from it. But yeah, I do. But honestly, I would love to go to a restaurant where all the servers are wearing Jinkos, and you know, there's fucking, you know, that the Strokes and the fucking Interpol, and you know,
that's the Gen Z kids are into that now. The kids that are like 22 right now are all getting into like early 2000s indie rock. They call it indie sleaze. It used to be called, I can't remember what we called it when it was out. I
thought it was lo-fi.
Lo-fi.
I don't know. It isn't that it is lo-fi. It was the reaction. The way that grunge was the reaction to hair metal, it was the reaction to Limp Bizkit, Korn, and Britney and all the pop. So it's like, so you have all that big shit, and it's like now you have this shit that is just it's stripped down, because like literally the Strokes is Television and all the bands from like the 70s and shit, and then like Interpol is post punk. So it's all just taking from that's all we're doing. So, you know,
20-year-olds are walking around in Phantom Menace t-shirts, and they're wearing bucket hats, and they're listening to that Wheatus song, Teenage Dirtbag, got big on TikTok. It's really crazy. Yeah. It's all repeats, and Bob's sources are just from thousands of years ago. And that's just, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I guess he's like, it's hard to get. He's probably like, no one's gonna know I'm stealing from Sophocles.
Buddy, it's so funny. Like, even on this record on Nettie Moore, he says the world of research has gone berserk. I think that's just such a funny line. You're never gonna find that in any other artist's lyrics. The world of research has gone berserk. It's almost like he's talking to these people who are being so obsessively keeping score about what his source material is if he's stealing. He's being like, you've lost how to listen to rock music. Like, just hang out and chill. Who cares that I stole something from an album from 100 years ago? Enjoy this record that you're listening to right now. Why are you somewhere else? Be here with me.
Yeah. Wow. All right. Where are we at? We talked about when the deal goes down. Yeah, somebody's baby.
Someday baby.
Someday, yeah. Someday baby.
You ain't gonna worry me anymore. So he definitely took that from somebody else. That's
I think you mentioned that this was featured in an iPod iTunes commercial.
Yeah, maybe it was Someday Baby, not Rolling and Tumbling. It was one. No,
it was, yeah. So that's what Adam. Adam does a research, so he'd probably fucking. You know, he usually doesn't fuck this up. He usually nails it on the fucking nose.
Working Man's Blues.
Working Man's Blues, which we already talked about. Jesus, baby.
Low wages are a reality. The buying power of the proletariat has gone down.
That's off of Working Man's Blues.
No one's writing this stuff. No one else.
Is that from the Communist Manifesto?
I mean, probably.
I mean, that's
straight from angles.
Yeah. Beyond the Horizon. And anything you want to say about that, or do you want to move on? Because I think I have some stuff on Nettie Moore, and then the next couple songs, which I don't have a lot, but it's like you probably know everything I'm going to say, or the lyrics are better.
I don't. Beyond the Horizon, it's kind of like a Bing Crosby type tune. He does those little pre-rock kind of swinging tunes sometimes. You know, Spirit on the Water is kind of that way.
Yeah. Oh no, that's literally what we had written about Spirit on the Water.
Yeah.
About, you said Bing Crosby, everything.
Nettie Moore stand out on the record. I think Nettie Moore just fucking whips. I think it's so good. What does he say? I'm the oldest son of a crazy man. I'm in a cowboy band. I think that's such a funny way to talk about yourself. I'm the oldest son of a crazy man. I'm in a cowboy band. He's got a pile of sins. At one point he says in that song, I have a lot written down here. I made notes before we did this podcast.
No, please, dude.
I didn't want your people to be disappointed, but at some point most of the time he's being abstract and he's just saying stuff because it sounds poetic, or it has some kind of A to D, A to E meaning for him. He's never A to B. It's almost always, like, let's take this thought I'm having and abstract it as much as possible. I don't want anyone to have any ground to stand on. But in this song, he says Albert's in the graveyard. His first manager was Albert Grossman, his big come up in the 60s that you can see on Don't Look Back, some of those early Bob Dylan documentaries. Albert Grossman is a big presence in there, and he's this really cool dude. And he kind of plucked up Joan Baez, and he plucked up Bob. I think that the Timothy Chalamet movie that they're making goes into the Albert and Bob relationship in a way that will help people. But I think it's just so funny that he says Albert's in the graveyard. Why I just don't understand why else he would pick out the first name Albert. He doesn't say a lot of names on this record. I mean, Alicia Keys, Nettie Moore. He talks about somebody named Albert and Frankie in this song, but he normally stays pretty vague. He doesn't name people a whole lot in these songs, and when he does, it's important.
I love that the two names are Albert, his old manager, and Alicia Keys. I still can't get over that. Yeah. I couldn't imagine what she must have fucking been like. Like, holy, what? Bob, I'm in it?
Here's what he meant. There in some of those old blues songs, because these people, there was no music scene for these old men sitting on porches who are getting recorded by Alan Lomax or whatever. Like, there was no scene. It was like oral tradition as people pass through. Robert Johnson passing through town. That's how you learn some of this stuff. And I think that in some of those early songs, there's something like people say, like, I went to Mississippi. I was looking for Big Mama something, naming some other blues musician that they only know from an LP, like from a 78. And so I think that Bob was doing something like that of like, I heard Alicia Keys and I went looking for her because I had something I needed from her. I wanted to learn something about how she makes music or something like that. I think that there's a tradition in blues music of shouting out another blues singer and being like,
I know, but
we got to link up.
It's yes, but I mean, it would be shouting out Tom Waits, shouting out like another person like on his level. It's like you guys have been like, it's like I was listening to JC Chazé in Sync the other day. It's just not. Man. It doesn't. It's 1 + 1 equals suddenly 5. It's like what?
But this man is making this record in 2006. Who is bigger than Alicia Keys in 2006?
Well, Beyonce's with the girls, but they're breaking up. No, they're independent now.
Yeah. I think I saw Julian Casablancas in the store. He was at the Rock and Roll Ralph's.
What is 2006? Well, Franz Ferdinand's playing all the time, and the darkness got a great falsetto.
And I think some of those Arctic Monkeys were around. And Ludacris still doing stuff and not acting.
Nelly's at the tail end of his career, and Usher's still bringing hits. All right, we've squozen enough. I keep going, but I feel like we're like, I'm getting into Nelly. God bless us, everyone.
I don't know. I think also in, I can't remember if it's in Nettie Moore or if it's in The Levee's Gonna Break, but he talks about his woman's been cooking all day and he doesn't know if he can eat it all in a single bite. And that's just one of the horniest Bob lyrics I've ever seen. There is horny Bob all over this record. Like from wondering where Alicia Keys could be and that he's looking for her clear through Tennessee, to how many times he talks about like, you've been on my mind. I can't stay away. I'm pale as a ghost. This guy is just so horny.
Horny, dude.
Guy
is he married?
I don't think he's married now. He's been married a couple times, but I don't think he could make it happen. And he had a romance with Joan Baez at one point. I think he had a romance with Mavis Staples. He was like in love with Mavis Staples for years. So I just don't think he's a marriage guy. I think he just wants to smoke and build wrought iron gates in Malibu and hang out with drummers and stuff. And
Sure.
Um,
Sure. Oh, dude. I mean, I couldn't imagine what, it's like dating Bob Dylan, especially later life Bob Dylan. Younger Bob Dylan, it's like it's drugs, it's alcohol, it's fun, it's
he's
you know
not
what I
brushing
mean?
his teeth. You know he's not brushing his teeth. When you
Oh
see the
God,
little
no.
pictures, you know he reeks.
Oh God, yeah. Yeah, what's funny is like you would think the same thing about Johnny Depp because he's always smoking those weird brown cigars, and then I met him at NAM I was friends with this girl Tol Wilkenfeld, still am, and she goes to this thing with like Steven Stills, him, Mike Campbell, a bunch of like rock stars, and he's playing Johnny Depp, and like he walked by and he introduced himself because he knew Tol.
Oh,
And it's like you shook his hand. And it was like he smelled like it was like a really good patchouli, and it had the essence of smoke and and like of dirt and grit, but it was like it was refined. And I think that Bob Dylan, you think like he must wear like a patchouli or like an oil, an essential oil of some kind, right? You don't.
he has to. He has to have some kind of signature scent.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that it is
Signature scent. I love that. Yeah.
signature scent. He's got a bourbon. Have you had his bourbon? Have you had his whiskey?
No, well, I haven't drank since 2006, but if I do break it, I'm not going for Bob Dylan's. I'm going for fucking the lead singer of White Snakes, Merlot.
There we go. That's what it is now, isn't it? You get
David Copper. What's his name? David. What's it? Hey, Alan. Adam. What's his name? David. Thank you. All right. Jesus.
Demon Copperhead.
That's the Copperpot. Okay. Wait, what were you saying about
I don't know, but I do got to get out of here.
All right, here, let's wrap this up. I'm sorry, dude. I thought we were because you have all these notes. I was like,
I
I'll
love
just keep
talking about this shit, but I just heard them.
Well, how about this? We've got a bunch more.
We can wrap it up right here because
no. We're gonna wrap it up here. We got a bunch more albums of his coming up. I'll love to bring you back for another one. Okay, so we do this for every guest, and dude, I had so much fun, James. Like, I mean that sincerely, dude. You took a record for me that was something I was like not looking forward to doing, to really making this really great, and I think the audience is gonna fucking love it. So I ask everybody these questions. I'm excited to hear your answers. What's your favorite song on this record?
I think the one I've listened to the most is Spirit on the Water because I just love that crappy little old man harmonica solo. I think it's absolutely perfect. But Ain't Talkin', the final song, is my favorite on this record. I love Ain't Talkin'. I think it is so spooky, cool, swampy, weird, and it takes that theme of I am a drifter who is probably a criminal and I'm thinking about a woman. I think it takes that and just moves it into this evil place, into this like sad, that the guy does not win in the end. This character, if this is a concept album, this drifter has a bad time and Ain't Talking. And as a Tom Waits fan, I mean, this is like a Tom Waits song. It's got a weird chord progression that feels old as time. I think it might be the only minor key song on the whole record. And,
wow.
He's talking about catching his opponents and killing them in their sleep. And he's talking about he got hit in the back of the head. He gets hit in the back of the head at the very beginning of the song. He's walking by a fountain and someone hit him from behind. So like, I don't know. I mean, the verse, I wrote this down. This is the only complete verse I wrote down from this record because I just love this verse so much. They say prayer has the power to help, so pray for me, mother. In the human heart, an evil spirit can dwell. I'm trying to love my neighbor and do good unto others, but oh, mother, things ain't going well. That's just like, I love that. I'm trying to be a Christian, but I just keep killing people. It's like,
fuck.
This character is so interesting to me. Whoever he's singing about on this record is like, I think is a cool protagonist. And
dude,
Ain't Talking blows it up for me.
Totally. All right. Is there one of the songs on the record that you skip over? Like, what's your least favorite?
I mean, I don't love Beyond the Horizon, and I don't love Working Man's Blues. I think is a little bit of a slog. That's the best I can say. But Nettie Moore kind of picks it all back up again. So
nice. Nice.
It's a good record if it has 3 good songs on it. That's what I believe.
Okay, yeah. I mean, look, sometimes there's filler. Do you think there's filler on this? I know you got to get out of here because I don't want to keep asking questions.
Mitchell thinks like everything Bob has done since like the 70s is filler. She referred to like I think Joni Mitchell said that she referred to Bob Dylan's songwriting style as like pulling lines out of a hat, like that he just writes down a cool line, throws it in a hat, and then throws it in whatever song he feels. And I hear that and I go, oh, that sounds like an awesome way to write songs. That sounds really cool to me, that you can go from talking about your honey pie to talking about I'm going to wring your neck. I mean, it's just like that's just cool. So if that's how he does it, great.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's Bob filler, but guess what? Bob filler is so much better than so many other people.
Sure.
That's how I feel.
All right. Can you fuck to this record?
You can fuck to the soft songs. You can for sure fuck to Ain't Talking. You can fuck to Ain't Talking. You can fuck to Spirit on the Water. There's songs you can fuck to, but once he gets that band kicked back up into a little blues doodad, I think I think that the magic will be suspended for a moment. You'll just
totally. All right, and last thing, and I want you to do this as Trump. How would Donald Trump get someone to listen to this record?
And I will say before we go that the only album that I fuck to is Donald Fagen's The Night Fly, but that's a conversation for another show.
We'll bring you back. We'll go deeper into that.
What did Donald Trump?
Donald Trump. I always say, what's your elevator pitch to get someone to listen to this record? How would Donald Trump sell this record to the world?
You know, I feel like there's so many people, and a lot of people are going to tell you that Bob Dylan is the only good person or the only good rock and roller or something like that. I don't like it very much. I don't think I hear a whole lot that, you listen to it, you say, what the hell is this? So I think that that's someone who we're not looking at very closely. But look, he's one of the greatest people we've ever known. This is somebody who recorded Knocking on Heaven's Door. And this is somebody who, look, he's a terrible person. I don't think there's anything that you can listen to from this person that is worth listening. I mean, it's terrible music. He sounds awful. It really sounds really bad. He's one of the best singers that I think anybody's. Look, this is somebody who is so beautiful and so important to our music, and he must be stopped. This is somebody that we got to take him down, and I would have taken him down so fast. If we had me there, I think Bob Dylan he wouldn't be here, but he's here. And this is somebody who is so important to us. This is one of our favorite people. I don't think I've ever met him. People say, oh, you know him, sir, you know him so as that. I don't think I've ever met him once in my life, but he's one of our dearest friends. He's one of our greatest artists. Is he here? Where's Bob? Is he here? There he is. There's Bob. Look at my Bob. Where is he? So I would love it if you would listen to, what's it called? Time Out of Mind. Listen to Time Out of Mind, because this is somebody. Bob, where's Bob? Listen to Dylan. You got to listen to Dylan, because Robert Dylan, this is somebody who's so dear to us. America, I think he's from Canada, but he's Jewish, but that's okay. And with Bob, you have a lot in terms of Minnesota and with regard to divorced guys. So stand back, stand by, listen to Modern Times, and God bless our terrible country. This is an awful, awful place full of some terrible, terrible people.
Dude, I can't thank you enough, James. Thank you so much for coming on. We will have you back. Don't worry, okay?